Welcome to the Church Street podcast, where we might be a little silly sometimes, but we try to focus on the Bible, things that are happening here on Church Street. I'm a pastor here at First Grapevine Methodist Church, and my name is Grant. I don't know if I said that. And I am joined by, to my left, Paul Bielss, who is our production manager. He produces this show. He helps with all of our media, just a jack of all trades. Also joined by Pastor Stiefel, sitting across from me over here, who is just an incredible guy. And in addition to being a great pastor, great thinker, great scholar, the Zen master of one-liners, I have discovered. Is this, you would agree?
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Oh, I mean...
quick wit, and very quick.
Speed, accuracy, He's got all of it. Yeah, it's great. And sorry we have the giggles as we're starting. It's been...
You should hear the conversation before we start, but you will never hear.
Don't put it that way. We were just talking about music and fun things that, we don't often get to just sit and chat about, which is kind of a good lead into why we do this, which is we try to model conversations so that you can come and talk to us, talk to other people. We want the conversation to continue. Is that fair?
That's fair.
So maybe we'll talk a little music at the end when we get to our patterns of silliness.
There we go.
And we'll get there in a moment. But first, I want to talk to you about death. I just dropped it that way just to get Zach a little bit. But no, this Sunday is All Saints Sunday. So we have a little bit of we're going to touch on that in the morning. Kiva is preaching in the traditional services. Zach is preaching in the contemporary. And then I'm working the night shift, leading the service at, what time is it?
6 o'clock. In the main sanctuary.
In the main sanctuary. And that's when we will read the names of the church members who have passed away this past year. But also we'll have this really, to me, it's a very moving time where we'll all have the opportunity to light a candle in remembrance of someone who is on our hearts that we miss, that we're grieving.
Now, is that candle just for this past year, or could it be for anybody?
Anybody. Doesn't have to just be a church member. Could be anytime, anyone that is on your heart and you're missing. And you know what? You don't just have to light a candle. You can light as many as you need. We make sure to have plenty. And I just comment on that because I had somebody ask me last year, is there a limit? When we run out, but then I'll just start finding more candles. Yeah.
The church is anything. It's a plethora of candles, for sure.
You about to say, we'll find something. We'll find something. We'll find a wicker basket or something. You can just light that on fire. No, but whatever we need to do to help with that moment, we're going to. So there'll just be a special time for that. Very, very... I'm not going to say excited. It's a heavy topic. It's always a heavy weekend as we go into this because, we're remembering those that we've lost and walking through that valley of the shadow of death. But we do so not out of despair, but with hope because of the promise of resurrection. I don't just want to ramble. I want to throw to you and say, All Saints Sunday, which you've obviously done before. You are a seasoned veteran talking to Pastor Zach. But as you're coming in here, what's on my mind, what's curious to me is you're coming to a new church to talk about this topic. How does that feel? What's on your mind?
I really love All Saints Sunday. Like you said, it is a heavy day, one that it evokes a lot of emotion. You are almost called to remember your grief in it, but I think that's really healthy. I think it's a really good thing, and so I'm eager to see the way that the church can, one, acknowledge that. And that's one of the first things we say in any funeral celebration of life that we do, is that we gather together in grief, but we're doing so with hope for resurrection. Mm-hmm. I think that's what this day represents.
I like how that liturgy, sorry to interrupt you, but I like how it says we gather together acknowledging our human loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what we can see is a rally for hope. And how often do we need that? It's going to be next week, or the week that this is going to be dropped is going to be a week where we're going to have half of our country grieving. over the results of what's happening. Is this okay to talk about the election?
Sure, go for it.
I'm just thinking that we're going to see people who are going to experience a loss, and how can we rally around hope in the midst of it?
I'm actually so glad that you brought that up, because you're right. There will be grief in our country over an election, which is a natural part of our democratic process in this country. And I think that extreme grief, and I'm sorry if this is stepping on toes or offending anyone, but I think that extreme grief is a sign of misplaced hope. Because I think that when we put hope in Washington or political figures, and we truly think that's where our help comes from, that we've trusted in something that's just, it's like building your house on sand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just going to wash away during any storm. But when we truly know, and not to say that voting isn't important or this election isn't very significant even compared to other elections. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm trying to say, if your heart is truly looking for a certain result of an election, and your heart's sense of peace is entirely based on that, then it's going to let you down.
Mm-hmm.
And on All Saints' Day, we acknowledge our hope in the face of the most difficult challenge that we will ever deal with as humans, death. Our hope comes from resurrection because of God and Jesus Christ and resurrection. For in my Father's house there are many dwelling places, and if it weren't so, I would have told you. And I go to prepare a place for you, and I will come again. I will not leave you orphaned. And just those encouraging words of Jesus, do not let your heart be troubled. Do not be afraid. That's so powerful. Mm-hmm. And we have to remember, not just this time of year, but every day, every week, this is where our hope comes from. This is who I can trust. This is the one who is in control. Sorry, I didn't mean to take that back over from you.
No, that was great. I mean, I think you're right. That, I love that. That's what, John 14?
Yeah.
And we see a very human side of Jesus, I think, in the sense of he's saying, yes, I'm going to go and I'm going to prepare this place for you. He says, but I care for you enough that I'm not going to leave you to do it alone.
Yeah.
And he introduces the Holy Spirit here too,
Mm-hmm.
but he says, I'm coming back. That you may continue to walk, you may feel like you're wandering or tarrying, but don't worry, because you don't have to do it by yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it also serves as a challenge for us that we're called to shine the light of Christ. And so if I'm walking through a season of grief, I'm walking through something difficult, it's going to take you and the rest of the people in the church, the people that we rub our shoulders against, that these are the people that will show us and remind us, hey, Jesus made a promise to us. Let's remember it together.
Yeah. Amen. Amen. Before I go to my next kind of question on that, do you have thoughts to add on All Saints' Day? I look to Paul.
The three of us are at different stages in our life and ages and everything like that. And I have lost both of my parents. And this is a day that comes out a lot, because basically I lost my mom in 2007 and I lost my dad in 2010. I lost my only brother in 2020. So it's kind of like I have a lot of loss, but you know what? I have a church family to help me get through that loss. Mm-hmm. And I really, really appreciate that. And we don't know, I mean, on Sunday night, if you were here, you probably saw me working. Each one of us faces that grief differently. Doesn't mean that I'm not grieving. How I deal with it is I work. But I will be remembering my lost family that evening.
Well, that's a big part of my call and how I received clarity around my call. I've probably told that story here too many times, but my best friend in high school passed away while I just started seminary, and I wanted to teach, I wanted to travel, I wanted to do archaeology. But the process of that funeral and the mess and the hurt and some things being, to put it kindly, mismanaged, in that moment, that's where I felt God really speak to me about how I needed to be in the local church, to be present with people going through what I was living in that moment, looking for hope and not having that need for hope managed well by the church. And I'm proud to say that our congregation does a great job, as good a job as any, walking with families through loss and through grief and creating a safe space to remember, but also always being clear that we can gather in peace with hope because of God.
And I love how when we're preparing for, and I love that we don't necessarily call it a funeral. We call it a
celebration of life.
Exactly, because that's what we're doing. We're celebrating their life. So we look at the future, not the past, you know.
Yeah, and celebrating God in their life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the best moments when we can celebrate a life well lived and point out that part of their soul that you connected with, that was a gift of God. That was God's light shining through them. That's what you connected with. And that's a gift from God. And being able to highlight that and point that out, it just means so much to everybody involved.
Yeah, and I'm in the process right now of writing a meditation for a celebration of life that I'll, by this point, have done when this is released. But even just getting to sit and to talk to the daughter of this woman, it's a very, I don't know the word I'm trying to think. I think it's healthy to sit and not think about just what has happened, but remember the good times and to look forward because of what you learned from this person. Mm-hmm. And to hear her share the stories of her mom. And, you know, she was from South Louisiana and she was good at making North Louisiana cornbread. Difference between South Louisiana and North Louisiana? I'm not sure. But
you better find out, because I'm a cornbread enthusiast.
Talk to this person. I bet she has a good recipe.
Well, I think we can name the deceased here. That's public information already. Yeah. Bertha Valentine, which I love that name. She was 95.
She was 95.
I talked to her on her 94th birthday, and I told her, happy birthday. Hope you have many more. She looks at me and she goes, not too many more. I mean, she was just, she knew her life was near the twilight, and she was excited to meet her Savior, and just had total confidence and faith in this entire last stage of her life, and that's so inspirational.
Mm-hmm. And I'm getting to work with the pictures right now, and the thing that I noticed in the pictures is that she has a smile on her face the whole time.
Oh, she always did.
Yeah,
it's pretty wonderful.
Now that you said cornbread, I have to have cornbread.
We had chili for lunch, and
I know it. Like,
it's chili season, so
it is. We're between October and March, so
and it's one of those days where I'm not going to get home till late, and I'm going to be like making cornbread in the middle of the night. I'll send you guys pictures at like 1 a.m. What is a tip for handling grief? It's something that everybody has to face, and I think it's easier if we talk about it now than when we're right in the grip of it.
I think we all do it, like I said, differently, and we have to find our space that we're comfortable in. For me, I get wrapped up in my work even more when I'm feeling it. I know that other people, they cry, other people laugh, and people that laugh, because I'm one of those. If I'm not in my work, I'm laughing. And people go, you're not grieving. No, I'm grieving the way I feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
You and I laughed together. In fact, I made a joke about something difficult in my life, and you kind of told me I can't say that. And I said, no, I earn the right to laugh and make that joke. And it's extra funny because it's so true. But the point of me saying that is talk. Yeah. Talk to people, share stories.
Don't be by yourself. And when my brother passed, Grant grabbed me, and we went and we talked a lot that day. And we laughed a lot that day too.
And we sat and didn't talk too.
Yep,
We
yep.
did. We just took a day.
Yep.
And
I
let it be.
appreciated that.
Well, thank you. And here's the thing: is we turned that tragic experience into a good memory.
Yep.
And we just let it go where it needs to go. That's my tip. As if you're walking alongside someone, is just go block out the day. I'm not gonna say kidnap them, but don't leave them alone. Don't take no for an answer. And it doesn't mean talk their ear off. That don't add stress. But I mean, you can add suggestions, but just go and be.
I still remember what Dr. Randy Wild said to me about his first time going to a visitation. And he was a brand new preacher, and he walked in, and he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. He just kind of stood there, and he goes, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he left, and he hadn't talked to hardly anybody. And he got a phone call from the family saying, thank you for being there. Sometimes it's just showing up and being there.
Yeah, that's my tip for grief as well, is that it's meant to be a team sport. We can't carry the burden on our own. My dad will say pretty often, his dad died when my dad was 24, so well before I was born, well before I would have had the chance to meet him. But my dad always says, he goes, I can't tell you one word that was said at that funeral. I can tell you every single person who was there.
Interesting.
It's the people that show up that carry us through our grief, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking about heavy funerals in my life. Yeah, you do remember who showed up. And you don't remember everybody, though. It's kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But you know how you felt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if your people show up, you're going to remember that your people were there.
Yeah, yeah. So sit and be with someone. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let it take the time it needs to take. That's my tip. And if you are the one grieving, then you'll let somebody in. If if you need to talk to them. If you need to sit, just tell them what to do, because they're looking to you for a little bit of guidance, and you know in your heart exactly what you need to do. You just got to ask yourself, what do I need here to process this? But don't hesitate to reach out to someone just because you don't know what to say. The best thing to say, if you have to say anything, is I'm sorry for your loss. Mm-hmm. That's a free one for you. I'm sorry for your loss. Don't need to say God got another angel, or don't try to make sense of it, especially if it's tragic. Don't try to say, well, this was the Lord's plan. Of course we know God is in control, but that can be a little hard to hear when things feel completely wheels off on a cosmic level.
Yeah.
No need to try to explain that. That's God's business. You just need to be there. Yeah. Other free tips? I've got a good book recommendation.
What is that?
Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. So my grandfather passed away. Oh, it's been a few years. More than 12, I guess. And somebody recommended this book to me. And at first I thought, I don't want to read right now. But I respected this person so much, I went out and got a copy. And it is an incredible book about grief and about the strange things that you do think. You know, the title, a year of I don't remember. Year of Magical Thinking. The strange things that cross your mind after you've lost someone, and just the way that your brain kind of unravels a little bit in the face of loss, which I don't think we're created to fully understand. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've seen that up close. After my grandfather passed away, I went to go see my grandmother not too long after the funeral, and everything was done, and I just asked her how she was doing, and she said, I'm okay most of the time, but I worry about him when it rains. He was buried in the cemetery nearby, and I thought, oh no, we got to put Mama Ree in a home now. But she said, I'm not going crazy. I know he's not really there, but his body is actually there. And I worried about his body so much. He was in forestry, out in the woods in all kinds of weather. She said, I worry about him for so long even though I know it's not really there, it's just hard to stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a powerful truth of it's hard for us to fully accept and understand. But I think if we wrestle with it and talk through it and sometimes just live with it, then we will get through it.
Yeah, and to go into it without the expectation that it has to be linear.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, for your grandmother, I'm sure when all was said and done, she didn't expect the rain to be something that triggered her toward grief, but that's just how it works.
Patrick O'Malley wrote a book, and I can't remember the name of it. He's a therapist out of Fort Worth.
Is it Getting Grief Right?
Getting Grief Right, yes. Thank you. Have you read it?
I have.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Did you know him?
No.
Okay. He retired just recently.
Okay.
That's a great book. It's started with a New York Times article that got so much traction that he wrote a whole book. Basically, a lot of people grow up with this concept of the stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't even know what they are. Anger, denial, I don't know. But they imply a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not it's stated by any of this psychological research that this stage lasts this long, like, you believe it anyway, or you think I'm not grieving right because I'm in the wrong stage, or I'm doing this or that. No, the only stages of grief are you have a person or a job or a thing in your life. There's an event that happens where that thing is no longer there, or a person is no longer there. And then the next stage is your life without them.
Yeah.
And that's it. Those are the stages. But the way to process is to understand your story and share your story.
I don't think that you said something about the title of the book, A Year in Grief.
Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion. That one is a nonfiction autobiography of the author writing about the loss of her husband. The other was written by counselor Dr. Patrick O'Malley, Getting Grief Right. I've got a copy in my office.
I do as well.
Well, what I was thinking is that implies, grief is only going to last a year. It's going to last for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we were just talking about country and western music and everything like that. And what is the yes,
both types of music,
both
country
types
and western.
One More Day. There's a song, just One More Day, Give Me One More Day, with someone, and every time I think of my mom, I say, I wish I had one more day. And that was in 2007 that I lost her. I mean, I still don't think I'm fully over her loss because I still miss her.
Yeah, and good news is that's okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And some days it's worse than others.
Yes. Totally.
Some days it hits really hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her favorite holiday was Christmas, and so for about 5 years after her passing, I didn't want anything to do with Christmas. I'm now over that. But
in fact, cut this out if you don't want this shared, okay? But you, before you came on staff for years, would come up and hang out at church,
right?
And then we added, in fact, we started doing this before we had an 11 o'clock service, but just in between services, we're just hanging out. And you told me about your grief and how Christmas is such a part of that for both of your parents. Mm-hmm. Not mine to share, but that's part of it for your mom and dad.
My father passed on basically on Christmas Day.
Oh, wow.
We don't know if it was Christmas Eve or into the day, but it was in the evening going into Christmas Day. So
here's my friend, grieving, sad, sitting in the office. I don't know what to do. So I said, let's go for a walk. And that grew from, I'm just trying to help a friend, to we started inviting, we do it every year, Christmas Eve. We invite other people. Now we do it after the 8 o'clock service and before the 11, so in between the last two. And we walk down Main Street and look at all the lights and stuff going on. And it's gone from just, we don't know what to do, to now here's a place for our volunteers and our staff who are still here on Christmas Eve to go and to have a joyful memory during this challenging task of what we do.
And we had 15 to 20 people last year.
Last year it really boomed.
Yes, it did.
Again, it started as just, And it's something small and relating to grief, but that's just a microcosm of how if you let God work in your heart and your soul, especially during those most difficult moments and experiences, God's going to do something incredible with it. You can't see what it is. Just be open and let God speak and say that little prayer of, God, don't let me put my foot in my own mouth talking to this guy about grief and loss. Lord, just guide our steps, both of us.
What was the prayer that you said in your, what was it, CPE?
Yeah, my CPE, my clinical pastoral education, that before every room that I would walk into in the hospital, I would say, Lord, I don't know what to say, so tell me what to say. And then I'd go in. Then
Don't have a spit take.
Oh, wow. I almost spewed Coca-Cola all over the soundboard.
there's the sponsorship.
There it is. I've been putting the bottle right where it can be seen in the camera. I know, it's too late in the day for me, and I don't need to be drinking this at all, but it's been one of those.
Yeah.
So that's a great, God, I don't know what to say, so please tell me what to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not saying anything.
Right. I think my theology of presence is really high in that it doesn't matter. Just go be with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, even talking about the walk on Main Street on Christmas Eve, I didn't know that's how it started, but you've told me about it. Like, I know that you're excited about it.
I don't tell people that until I tell everyone on the internet. But
We're going to have 200 people there this year. Yeah.
hey, that'd be fine. But yeah, it's again, even in those hard moments, let God move. Follow where God is leading. Great things are going to happen. I know it.
And I think that goes to show that in moments of grief, God can turn it into a holy ground really quickly for you to walk on.
Yeah.
That he can take something like a walk down Main Street at 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve into holy ground for
Yeah.
you to be walking alongside somebody with.
Yeah. What else do we need to cover on this topic?
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
That was a lot.
Favorite passage relating to this? I've already referenced John 14. That's a good one.
I really love the 23rd Psalm, and anytime
The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want.
that's right.
That's all I'm going to say. But just
In any celebration of life that I do, I relate this to the person, and you'll hear this week or now previously, but at the end of each homily or each meditation that I do, I'll say, now I want us to think about the 23rd Psalm again, and I'll put the person in it. The Lord is Grant's shepherd. He did not have to want. God made Grant to lie down in green pastures. He led him to still waters. And then it ends, you were talking about these seasons, if life works in mountains and valleys, it ends with dwelling in the house of the Lord forever. And I think it's a really special time to hear that of the person that you may have loved most in the world, and to hear their story now says, I dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
And we need that reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's really powerful. That's a tearjerker. I'm not dead yet, and it still was very moving when you used my name. Yeah. I've come close. But I'm not dead yet.
I'm feeling much better. Monty Python reference for those that don't know.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, which is probably a good transition for us to move out of this topic. But one other thing I do want to say about grief and loss as we were preparing is that I know it's overwhelming. I'm overwhelmed by it myself sometimes, and we have resources to help you. I mentioned a couple of books, but we'd love to pray with you, love to hear the stories. We'd love to be present with you. Just let us know how we can. We also have a team of volunteers who have gone through over 50 hours of training to be confidential, prayerful listeners. They're not counselors. They don't charge. This is not a fee. It's just people who will meet with you, will not spread your business. In fact, unless you tell me that you are receiving care from a Stephen minister, then I don't know. And this is one of the few times I'll ever mention my rank here. I'm the boss here, and I don't know. Okay? So you can trust this program if you need to talk to someone. So give us a call. Let us know how we can help. Is that a good kind of
Yeah.
moving on to other topics?
Yeah, yeah. Well, my wife is a Stephen minister, and basically, I don't even know when she's going out to meet with her person, if she has a person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know that, and I'm the closest person to her.
And you work here.
And I work here.
Yeah. I don't even know. You don't know. It's kind of a
I
Seinfeld moment. Sorry. It's been a silly day, I think, because it's been 90 miles an hour. So pardon us for being goofy. That's something we try to tone down for the podcast. We don't go full NPR, but we get a little closer than normal. So
Say NPR again.
NPR.
There we go. You have the good voice for it.
Oh my! That reminds me of the local station back home. It was Red River Radio, and you could almost hear them like the deep breath. Red River Radio.
Sad thing is that I'm the one that used to train people to do that kind of thing in high school. So
Yeah.
I had that internet radio station, and that's what we trained on.
I'm pretty good at radio voices.
Yes, you are.
You do have a good radio voice.
Well, thank you. I can do different decades of the radio voice, like the what's it called, the transcontinental accent. And there we are. Take that, Mr. Hitler. And the Yankees win 3-0. Here comes Paul Bielss, bottom of the fourth.
He's 0 for 4 today.
Yeah, that sound, or yeah, that's anyway. I digress. Speaking of which, this must be a pattern of silliness.
Pattern of silliness.
So
Do we need to get a theme song for the pattern of
We
silliness to
definitely
I
add
think
into
we're going to
this?
have to do that.
pattern. We need Josh Ingram, our praise band leader, to record something. That would be great. So, but it is all silliness aside. Patterns of silliness is where we talk about things that help us de-stress. And I think that fits in really well with our conversation around grief, because sometimes what you need to do after just a shocking, traumatic experience is to do something that helps you calm your nerves and helps you come down off of that adrenaline high to help you process. And so typically we talk about things that we've done this week, some hobbies we have going on, but we were talking about music right before. And to me, music, Johann Sebastian Bach said, music is a gift from God that soothes the soul. Who am I to argue with the man? Should we talk about music that we've enjoyed this week?
Let's.
All right, so you're our country and Western expert, right,
That's
Zach?
right.
Anything? What's something you've listened to this week that was like? I know you've had a stressful week. You've had a lot going on.
Yeah. When I find myself in really stressful situations, it is George Strait that calms me down. And one, I just love his music. Two, that was Cheryl and my first date, and so it's kind of
You went to a
nostalgic.
concert?
We did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was the one that was supposed to be his last one at Jerry World, where he brought in X amount of people, and they each got to choose 2 of his songs that were their favorite, and they sang it with him.
I did not know that.
It was really
Okay.
fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I set the bar real high on the first date. We went to the George Strait concert, but it worked. So George Strait always is the voice that kind of helps bring my anxiety level down. I was telling Paul right before we started doing this that I could sit down and listen to the Turnpike Troubadours.
Excellent choice.
Yeah, they're great. They've got a show coming up. They're doing the first ever stadium tour at Boone Pickens Stadium, which is Oklahoma State and Stillwater. And so they're using 2 bands that have Stillwater ties, Turnpike, and then Cross Canadian Ragweed is coming back together for it. They're calling it the Boys of Oklahoma Tour.
Cross Canadian Ragweed, CCR. It always confused me because CCR is a band in the 60s,
Creedence Clearwater Revival.
and then you had the new CCR. And so when I was DJing and people would come up and ask for that, I would go, "Which one?" And they would look at me like, "Huh?"
You know I'm about to explode because I want to sing that line, and that's no.
Please don't do it.
We can't do that. No, because my singing voice is bad. That's why.
You got the radio voice, though.
Well, thank you. Well, that sounds fun. When is that? Are you going?
I'm not going. I think it's the weekend of Palm Sunday.
Yeah, you're not going.
No, and yeah, it's a Friday, Saturday, and that's actually the same week as the Masters golf tournament. And
Oh,
so
but you are going to that.
we're going on Friday.
Yeah.
Be here for Palm Sunday, but Cheryl won lottery tickets, so we're going to the Friday round in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay. All right. That's going to be awesome.
What kind of sandwich do you have to have there? It's
pimento cheese.
Yeah, that's the one.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, but George Strait.
George Strait, and right now I've been real
Turnpike
big on
Troubadours.
Turnpike.
Okay.
How about yourself?
Man,
Well, while you're thinking of that just real quickly, one of my first dates with my wife was to see Neil Diamond, and so in the round even. Okay.
That's awesome.
And so I don't know what that says about me and my wife, but she stuck around for it, you know.
I think lately I've probably been listening to as much or more jazz than I ever do. I love Miles Davis, John Coltrane. I've got some other random albums that have been coming off the shelf, a little different from normal for me. I love Paul Simon's Graceland.
Oh,
That album
great.
is one of my favorites. I listen to it at least once a week, and I love it so much. In fact, I think that just popped in my head because I had a great conversation with Todd Parrish, and I'm meeting with him later today, and that's one of his favorite albums too. And we just talked about what it means to us, because a lot of it is about grief and loss, a lot of the songs.
And Paul Simon is married to, do you know?
No.
Edie Brickell. Edie Brickell of the New Bohemians, which was a Dallas band. And Paul Simon and her have been married for now 25 years-ish. And you and I were just talking about Edie Brickell because Edie Brickell just did a album with Steve Martin where she sings and he plays the banjo. So Edie Brickell, Paul Simon reference.
Trivia guy over here.
I think we should put that to the test. Let's see what happens.
No, don't. It's endless.
It just gets worse.
Yeah, very quickly. So, all right, do you have music that you go to in a time of need?
Zach and I were just talking about my Spotify playlist, and it's literally 2,500 songs of all over the road. It can have some George Strait in there. It has Edie Brickell in there. It has Steve Martin in there with his banjo. It has Broadway show tunes. It has Journey. I know you don't like Journey, but Journey and Styx and just all over the place. So I like a variety of things. If I'm out playing a event as a DJ, I have to play a lot of EDM. EDM is
electronic dance music.
Thank you.
it used to be called techno, but we don't call it techno anymore.
Because we're old. We still call it techno on this side of the table.
We call it EDM on this side of the table.
But it pumps up the sports team that I'm working for, and so whichever it is, and so I have to play a lot of that, and it's kind of like, that's not what I go home and listen to. I'll just say that.
Well, how about, I've got an album to mention that I guess I technically recommend it, but there is something I listen to when I'm a little stressed, but I need to work on a creative project that it's a little unusual coming from me. I like this band, but, I'll just go ahead and say it. Stadium Arcadium by the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Ooh.
I think that's from 07, 06. Yeah. And it's a double album. And the Chili Peppers, I mean, you either love them or hate them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But even if you aren't a huge fan, it's a fantastic album. It's very different from a lot of their other work, I would say. As a fan, I would say it's very different from some of their other work, but it's all about creativity and being inspired by something outside of yourself.
Didn't they have a song on that called Under the Bridge?
No, that's I don't need to say that album title on here.
Okay,
but,
sorry. Not that album.
Well, it's
Yeah.
not. I just don't want to shock anybody in their car. It's not a bad word or anything. It's just
Yeah.
No, Stadium Arcadium. One other thing is that album you mentioned, that's early 90s, and they're pretty far into their career at that point, and it's just a very different a different thing. I don't know how to explain it, but a lot of it is about creativity and being inspired and being open to that. And just when I get stressed or I'm dealing with something, but yet I want to move out of it. A lot of my job is based on creativity, and a lot of my reputation is based on coming up with ideas for things. And, sometimes that well is dry, and that's just something that I'll put on as I'm trying to work through that. And, you associate music with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And that album for me is just the limitless possibility of creativity coming from that other place, coming from God, coming from which the members of the Chili Peppers totally acknowledge and own that and embrace it. And that album is really, but in fact, the song that's the title of the album, Stadium Arcadium, is just about that, about thanking God for creativity and being a part of something bigger than yourself. So that's something to me. I'm just listing off a lot of it. I hope so. I hope you have an album you can go to that takes you in a positive direction. I think that's another trick with grief. It's, yes, you got to let it take all the time it needs,
mm-hmm.
but I think also be praying for God to give you light at the end of the tunnel. It's not going to get there instantly. Sometimes you're not going to get there as quick as you want, but.
Well, can I ask, talking of music, speaking on music, is there a worship song, a hymn, something that can center you in that way?
Oh, man, yes. Be Thou My Vision,
mm-hmm.
which after I just said that probably isn't too surprising. I love that so much. A lot of, I'm jumping genres here, but a lot of Bach's stuff was written for worship.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one could argue everything he wrote was with a worshipful mindset, and you can just feel that when you listen. And yeah, there's a lot. Do you have an answer to that, of something that
I keep a playlist that I call Jam for the Lamb, and it's all worship music.
Jam for the Lamb? All right.
But the song I go to right now, it's a contemporary Christian song. It's called Gratitude. And it says, and so I'll throw up my hands and I'll praise you again and again. And I always thought it was like the worshipful hands in the air. But I think this is a song that after I had gotten some really difficult news, it was the first song that they sang at church my first time back. And it wrecked me, like brought me to my knees. And I was talking to my buddy who's the worship leader after. I was like, man, how dare you do that to me? And he laughed because, man, I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
And so fast forward 6 or so months, we got good news based on the bad news that we'd previously gotten. And we were having a worship night. And I got up and spoke, and I talked about this song. I said, it went from holding your hands up in worship to throwing your hands up because you don't have anything else. Like, Lord, I'll still praise you again and again. And then he went on to sing that song immediately after. And again, it brought me to my knees. But that's the song that I'm like, Lord, despite the good or the bad, I'm going to praise you again and again.
That is sort of the meaning behind the hymn, It Is Well.
Mm-hmm.
That's also very much the ending of the prophet Habakkuk.
Mm-hmm.
And also Joel, both of them. But basically, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep praising you.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, man. Jam for the Lamb.
Jam
Lamb
for the
Jam.
Lamb. JFTL. Jam for the Lamb.
All right. Do you have anything to contribute?
Mine's going to be a lot less praise in the fact of if I need to center myself, I usually want something a little bit faster. And so some Newsboys.
Yeah.
God's Not Dead kind of thing.
I like that.
Dating himself with that one, though.
Hey, they're still touring.
I'm not saying I didn't see them in concert back when they were cool.
I think
They're
I saw
still
that Six
cool.
Flags, actually.
Come on now.
Sure. No, that's a good answer, though, Newsboys. The point is, there's a vast catalog of music written by people of faith who trusted God in difficult circumstances and move forward with it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, not trying to rush you, but keep your eye on God, and you will get through that valley.
Yeah.
What's our time there, boss?
We've got about 6 or 7 minutes.
You know what? I have 3 minutes before my next appointment. So think we should probably wrap it
That's
up.
fine.
Paul, Zach, thank you so much for your time here and for your wisdom and for your humor. I always enjoy talking to you. And dear listener, thank you for your time. Whatever you were doing, we're very honored that you included us. If you need somebody to talk to, jump in the conversation. We'd love to share with you. We'd love to listen, pray with you. We've got, again, if you need more time than that, we've got lots of people. Just reach out to us and let us know where you are in your journey and how we can be a part of it. We hope to see. I keep forgetting. This is now 2 weeks in a row. I've forgotten to come with a
quote.
particular quote. That's my mistake. I did kind of crash land into this. They were trying to send me out in the hall to get something or someone. I don't even remember now. I'm like, I'm not going back out there. I'm not going back. I'm going to get copies. I'm not going. So I'm sorry. I left all my good. I left all my good quotes. But do you have one?
Not right off the top of my head.
Let me pull one up.
Actually, the funny one that this is not funny. It's probably just funny to people in my family. But I'm from Arkansas. Again, I mentioned my grandfather's service. His birthday would be this Friday, and at his funeral, my cousin got up and talked about how whenever we'd go riding the 3-wheelers or 4-wheelers, and yes, we did that, and they are as dangerous as you've been told your whole life. No, we never wore helmets or anything, but my grandfather would always say, my older cousin was saying, he would always say, be particular, and it was my turn to speak at the service. I got up and I said, Kirk, I think because of you and my other cousins, by the time I got out there, it transformed into be very particular. But I always like that. It's such a nice way to say be careful or watch your step or mind what you're doing. And I don't implement it as often as I should because it does come across as much more sweet than just watch yourself, be careful, but be particular. That means a lot. So I lay that before you. And again, it's probably only funny to us, but you got one?
Nope.
Nope, but you tried.
That was the good one to end on.
Oh,
That was that.
well, thanks everybody. No matter what you're doing, especially if you're out there driving, be particular. And we hope
Be
to see
very
you.
particular.
Be very. He had a great voice too. It was just gravel. It was just a gravel road. I can't even do a real impression, but I can still hear it in my head. Be very particular. Talk to you soon.